Okay, let's unpack this. We just finished going through the sources you shared with us, and wow, they tackle one of the most fundamental questions of modern life.
They really do.
It's this question of, are we truly making the most of our time, or are we just kind of trapped in a loop? That whole work, eat, scroll, repeat cycle.
And it's more than just a philosophical question,
Yeah.
It's a real challenge because the sources we looked at highlight just how easily we fall into living on autopilot.
Autopilot, that's the perfect word for it.
It is. If you ask someone to estimate how much of their day is actually spent on things they genuinely value, the numbers are pretty shocking. Many people think it could be up to 70%.
70% of their day.
Yes. 70% spent on just unnecessary actions, not intentional living.
Wow. I mean, 70%. That is the real world cost of just letting the days slip by. And when you add in that one single profound number from the material, the one that completely reframes this entire deep dive, it really raises the stakes.
You're talking about the 4,000 weeks?
4,000 weeks. The idea that the average human lifespan is only about 4,000 weeks long.
It's sobering, isn't it? It just strips away that illusion that we have infinite time.
Completely.
And if you're listening to this, and let's say you're 40 years old, well, more than half of your 4,000 weeks are already gone. It instantly makes time feel less abstract and more like a finite, precious resource.
So our mission today is to give you a framework to really meet that reality head on. We need to go beyond just simple time management hacks and actually shift our whole perspective on time itself.
Right.
We're pulling out the core concepts from the psychology of it all to the practical tools for reclaiming those hours so you can intentionally build more meaning into the time you have left.
And to do that, we have to start with the first psychological barrier, which is, why does time feel so short in the first place? That's really the first battle in taking back control.
I think everyone can relate to this. Why did summer vacations feel like they lasted forever when you were a kid? But now, Monday hits, you blink, and suddenly it's Friday again. Where does all that time go?
Well, that feeling is actually backed by science. The sources call it the time perception paradox.
The time perception paradox. Okay.
It explains why our subjective, our felt experience of time seems to speed up as we get older, even though a minute is always a minute.
So what's the mechanism there? What is our brain using to measure time if not the clock?
It's all about information. Our brains measure time based on the number of new experiences they record.
New experiences.
Exactly. When you were a kid, almost everything was new. A new park, a new food, a new skill. Your brain was forced to pay full attention, actively recording every little detail. And that made those periods feel so long and rich and dense.
That makes perfect sense. The density of novelty actually stretches your perception of time.
It does. But as adults, what do? We optimize for efficiency. We build routines.
The same commute to work.
The same desk, the same dinner on a Tuesday. And your brain, it just decides it doesn't need to document those details anymore. It knows the pattern.
So the days just blur together.
Right. Think about driving a route you know really well. The first time, it feels long, you notice every turn. The 10th time, it feels so much shorter because your brain is basically on standby.
That's the insidious part of routine, isn't it? It speeds up our lives by making us less present. So the actionable tip here to sort of stretch time is to intentionally break the routine.
Precisely. You have to force your brain back into attention mode. And the sources weren't saying you need to book a trip around the world. It's about small, deliberate bits of novelty.
Like taking a different route to the grocery store.
Or signing up for a pottery class, or even just trying a complex new recipe for dinner. The goal is just to make your brain pay attention again.
That's a great reframe. You're not adding something to your schedule for productivity's sake, but purely to make that day feel denser and therefore longer.
Yes. And if we can agree that routine speeds up time, the next major time killer is delay. We have to confront what the sources called the illusion of someday.
Ah, someday. It's such a comfortable word, isn't it?
It is.
It's the ultimate procrastination trap, the place where all our big dreams go to take a nap. We'll start that novel or launch that business or fix that bad habit someday.
And that someday feeling is built on, well, a couple of faulty assumptions. The first is that we're waiting for perfect conditions.
More energy, more money, more time.
Exactly. But the sources were really clear on this. The perfect time doesn't exist.
Right. It's like waiting for all the traffic lights to turn green before you even start the car. You'll never leave the driveway.
You won't.
Yeah.
And the second assumption is often just fear. Fear of a messy beginning. We think starting something big has to look perfect from day one.
And we wait for this feeling of being ready.
Right. And all that waiting just costs us our time wealth.
So what's the immediate fix for that someday trap? How do you build that initial momentum?
The goal isn't perfection, it's just starting. First, you replace the vague idea of someday with a specific date. You turn the dream into an appointment.
Put it on the calendar.
But even more powerful is focusing on a small, sustainable action you can take today.
Let's take a tiny commitment.
Tiny. Not go to the gym for an hour, but take a 10-minute walk. Not write a book, but watch one 5-minute tutorial on a skill you want to learn.
It's about getting the train moving.
Exactly. Because once it's moving, even slowly, it takes so much less energy to keep it rolling than it did to get it started from a dead stop.
And that initial momentum leads us right into the biggest question of all: prioritization. With only 4,000 weeks, how do we decide what truly deserves that momentum?
This is where you need brutal clarity.
Mm-hmm.
And the sources offered a really powerful mental exercise for this. They called it the deathbed test.
Walk us through that. It sounds intense.
It is, but it's remarkably simple and effective. You just imagine yourself at 90 years old looking back on your life.
Okay.
And you ask,
There.
what will I cherish? Well, I wish I'd spent more hours clearing out my email inbox or scrolling social media feeds.
Probably not.
Or will I cherish the time spent with family, creating experiences, pursuing something meaningful, or just being present for the people I love?
That really separates the urgent tasks from the important ones. The urgent stuff almost never passes the deathbed test.
It doesn't. And the test helps you filter all that noise out. So the practical tool that comes from this is the top 3 priorities rule. Every day, you identify the 3 things that align with those long-term values. Those are your non-negotiables.
That sounds great in theory, but in the chaos of a busy day, how do you actually defend those top 3? The world is constantly trying to hijack your time for its own priorities.
That is the challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And defending them requires learning to say no.
To everything else.
To everything else. This is where most people fail. They let other people's emergencies override their own intentional goals.
Mm-hmm.
You have to treat your top 3 like they are unmovable meetings in your schedule.
And the sources were very specific about one of the biggest drains on our focus,
Oh, yeah?
the social media black hole. It's the ultimate time waster because it tricks you into thinking you're connecting or being productive when you're mostly just consuming.
It's the absolute opposite of intentional living. You pop in for 5 minutes to check one thing, and suddenly 45 minutes are just gone.
Vanished.
So identifying those time sinks, like maybe turning off all your notifications, is crucial for creating the space you need for the things that actually pass the deathbed test.
And when we talk about investment, the material was completely unanimous on this point. Invest in experiences, not possessions.
100%. Experiences give you a much higher return on your time. They contribute to your life story, and they add that novelty that fights the time perception paradox.
I get that. Think about that expensive gadget you saved up for. You loved it for a month maybe, but now it's just sitting in a drawer.
That time and money you spent are just inert now. But compare that to the memory of a spontaneous weekend road trip with friends, or finally learning how to bake good bread.
Those memories, those skills, they stay with you. They become part of who you are. The money for the road trip is long gone, but the memory is still paying you back in joy.
Which brings us to seeing time as the ultimate currency. This leads to the idea of time wealth.
It's so fascinating. We track our bank accounts down to the penny, but we let hours and days just drain away with no accountability.
Exactly. We wouldn't just throw $50 in the trash, but we'll waste an hour on something that doesn't matter without a second thought.
And time is so much more valuable.
Objectively, you can always earn more money. You can never own back time. Once it's spent, it's gone forever. So time wealth isn't about frantically packing every minute. It's about having time freedom.
Control over your own schedule.
The autonomy to decide where your hours go.
This brings up that huge tension point in modern careers, the big trade-off. The sources had so many examples of people who chased the high-paying job, got the financial success, but it cost them 70 or 80-hour work weeks.
They traded their time freedom for financial security. And they ended up with enough money to buy the life they wanted, but they were too exhausted, too busy, and too stressed to actually live it.
That's a powerful image, having this beautiful blank canvas, but being too tired to even pick up a paintbrush.
Right. The goal is to be able to paint the life you want by controlling that canvas of time.
So how do we get more tactical? How do we start regaining that control in our day-to-day lives?
We have to start with focus. The research showed a huge benefit in shifting from multitasking to single tasking.
Multitasking always feels so necessary, though. It gives you the illusion that you're being super productive.
It's just an illusion. The sources defined it as just switching rapidly between tasks, and you pay a cognitive price every single time you switch.
I think we've all been there.
The example they used was so relatable, trying to answer emails while you cook dinner and kind of half-watch the news. And what happens? You get burnt pasta and a bunch of poorly written, half-finished emails.
Your productivity tanks and your stress levels go through the roof.
But when you commit to just one thing, just chopping the vegetables, just writing the email, you do it better. And the experience of focus actually lowers your stress. You're savoring the task.
Okay, so to make that transition to single tasking and intentional living, the sources gave us 4 simple but powerful tools. The first one was the time log.
Right. We manage what we measure. Just like tracking your spending, you can't manage your time until you know where it's actually going.
And our internal estimates are probably way off.
Wildly inaccurate. Just logging your activity for 1 week, even in 15-minute chunks, can be a huge eye-opener. People who felt they had no time were shocked to find an extra hour or two hidden in things like constant app checking.
So that gives you the data. The next tool is about protecting the time you find, and that means scheduling downtime and rest.
Yes, we see rest as a reward, something you get after all the work is done. But the sources stress that rest is a productivity booster. It's a requirement for focus.
You have to put it on the calendar.
You have to schedule it just like a meeting. If it's not on the calendar, it won't happen. It'll get pushed aside.
And the third tool is creating time buffers. This one seems small, but I can see how it would make a huge difference for stress.
Overscheduling is the quickest way to burn out. It's like stacking dominoes too close together. One little delay, some traffic, a long phone call, and the entire day just collapses.
You spend the rest of the day rushing and feeling stressed and late.
But leaving those unscheduled gaps, those buffers, it prevents that collapse. That space isn't wasted time, it's flexibility. It's time to breathe, to think, to transition between tasks. It protects your whole schedule.
And finally, the last tool that ties it all together is daily reflection.
At the end of the day, you just take 10 minutes to ask one simple question. Did I spend my time today on things that truly matter or just things that felt urgent?
Which brings us right back to the deathbed test. It keeps you aligned with your values and stops you from slipping back into that time-accelerating autopilot.
In the end, the core message isn't that we need to squeeze more tasks into our 4,000 weeks. It's about being incredibly intentional about the quality of those weeks. It's about meaning and balance and reclaiming control.
So if we go back to the time perception paradox, the idea that our experience of time is stretched by novelty and attention, the challenge isn't really about efficiency, it's about presence.
Exactly. So the real question for you to think about is this. If the perception of time is based on novelty, what deliberate new experience will you choose today? Not for productivity, not to get ahead, but purely to make this coming week feel longer and denser and more vibrant than the last.
Stay curious, stay intentional, and keep making every minute count. Thanks for tuning in to The Deep Dive.